delusions. The second and the 10th are karma. The remaining 7 are suffering. The first is ignorance. The 8th and 9th are craving and attachment. So, first, 8th, and 9 are delusion. The second, karmic formation, and the 10th, becoming, are karma. The remaining 7, consciousness, name and form, 6 senses, contact, sensation, birth, aging and death are suffering. Okay. Regarding the way shesung gyunde drozu ni nyomo sumle ni nyomo sumle le ni dang tele dunga dunjung shins dunle lariang randregi nyomo sumjung zagengi korlo korra tesitu sumbo tagli ni jungte nile dunjung dunle kyang sumjung sibe korlo te nini yangda yangdu kor. Regarding the way that some of the branches are causes and some are results, he said, Nagarjuna said, from the 3 delusions arise the 2 karmas. From there, the 2 karmas arise the 7 sufferings. So, from the 3 delusions, from craving, attachment, and ignorance arises karmic formation and becoming. From karmic formation and becoming arises birth, aging and death, consciousness, name and form, 6 senses, contact, and sensation. From the 7 arise again their own result, the 3 delusions. As long as it is like the spun wheel of a potter, there arise the 2 karmas from the 3 delusions. From the 2, 7 will come. And again, from the 7 arise the 3. This very wheel of samsara will thus keep turning again and again. So basically, from the 3 delusions, craving, attachment, and ignorance arises inevitably the 2 karma, which is karmic formation and becoming. From the 2 karmas, what we get? The 7 results of suffering. From the 7, what comes after that? The delusions, the 3 delusions. And the 3 generate the 2 karmas, which generate the 7 sufferings. So this is the cycle of samsara. This is actually what we call samsara. Okay? So, in this way, we conclude this part of the text, which basically is showing us how samsara exists and is giving the main answers for what Lama Tsongkhapa have asked about the 12 links. And I think it's quite clear for us, no? The text, based on what we have already explained. So this is something quite good because it shows that we have understood a good deal of the 12 links. Because when Lama Tsongkhapa, he put the questions about the 12 links, he put what are the important things that we need to understand about the 12 links, and most of them we already got. Okay. Now remain the last part, in which Lama Tsongkhapa asked, and the way the guiding commentary on the 3 levels of beings comes within them. Okay, this is what we are going to see right now. So, the next part refers to the question that Lama Tsongkhapa put forward, saying, and the way the guiding commentary on the 3 levels of beings comes within them is how can we meditate, how can we guide ourselves through the 3 levels of spiritual development through the 12 links. Okay? So basically, the answer is given here, in which Michel Gansen says, Shesun te yang ngendroye yang la chungni ju dokki, semba kebu chungu kor, dendroye la chungni gi dokju semba dringshe cha, tetar rangyam la pakne, magyur semchen tamche kyan tende chungni gweneni korwe gyatsur kyambala, chamda ningje chanchub sem, kene gyase chöbala, loba, kibuchimbula. Furthermore, there are the 12 branches of bad destiny, lower realms, which we have seen this morning. The fact that if I die with a negative condition, I get a negative result, so there's a negative rebirth, and this I enter into this negative cycle, which is quite difficult to get out. To think of them in the forward process and reversed process is called the meditation on the lesser being, which means when I look, if I die with a negative emotion during craving and attachment, what happened? I create a negative cause, karmic formation and consciousness. And at the same time, I create a negative becoming, which brings me a negative rebirth of a lower realm. Within the lower realm, I will go through aging and death, and I will have name and form, six senses, contact, and sensation of a lower realm, which most probably will bring me again to craving, attachment, and becoming in the moment of death in a negative way. That will bring me to a negative rebirth, and so on. This is in a normal order. The reversed order that we should analyze is, in order for me not to have a negative rebirth, not to have a lower rebirth of suffering, so name and form, six senses, contact, sensation, in order not to have aging and death in a lower rebirth, in order not to have a lower existence, I must not have a lower rebirth, first of all. In order not to have a lower rebirth, there must be not a negative becoming. For that, I shouldn't have an attachment and craving negative at the moment of death. For that, I shouldn't react in that way through sensation. For that, I shouldn't have a specific type of contact. By that, I shouldn't go to the six senses, name and form, consciousness, karmic formations, and ignorance. Okay? This is the reverse order. So in order there not to be aging and death, there shouldn't be birth. In order not to be birth, there shouldn't be becoming. And like this, we go back and back and back and back until we reach to ignorance. So, by reflecting upon this, the 12 links, going forward and backwards, in relation to the lower rebirths, we come out to the conclusion, I must be careful, I must act in a positive way, I must familiarize myself with virtue, because I don't want to have a lower rebirth. Okay? This is what we have talked a lot this morning. But when we go through that, then after that it comes to our mind and we say, okay, but let's say I am able at the moment of death to create a positive condition. Okay? So there's craving, attachment, becoming, I create a positive condition. This manifests a positive karma, and by that I have a good rebirth. Okay? Can anyone assure me that in my next life I will again create a positive condition so the next life will be positive? No. And let's be sincere, even if I have a very nice rebirth in my next life, it's not that special. Here now, we have a very good rebirth. We are in a human body, we are in a rich part of the world, nothing is lacking materially for us. We have Dharma, we have so many positive qualities of a positive rebirth. Is it good enough? No. Is because we have had a good rebirth now, can this assure us that we will have a positive rebirth in our next life? Not at all. So, it's not enough to have a good rebirth. It's already something, but it's not enough. By looking at the 12 links of interdependence from a positive way, which means through a positive rebirth, what we come at the conclusion is that even if I am reborn in the God realms, where there is no such a thing as gross suffering, we will see it now, still I will die, and I'm not sure what type of rebirth I will get again, and still I am in the cycle of samsara. I simply don't want anymore to be in samsara. I must get out of it. I don't want anymore to live and to experience reality guided by ignorance and constantly being trapped and a slave of my own defilements. I must get out of the cycle of suffering. I must cut completely away these 12 links of interdependence, negative interdependence. I must eliminate ignorance. I must develop a correct view of reality. I don't want anymore to be in samsara. I simply cannot cope with it anymore. I must get out of it. And this is called the medium scope. The lower scope, which is already something, is to say, I want to have a good life because I don't want to have a negative rebirth. It's already something. The second level is, I want to get completely out of samsara. I simply cannot be anymore within that state. Okay, I am in this life, I take care of everything of this life, which means I work, I relate with everyone I have to relate, everything, that's all wonderful, but my main goal is I must get out of samsara. I don't want any more. This constant process of action, creating causes, ripening the causes of the past, experiencing sickness and aging, and then sadness, and to not be able to get the object of desire, then need to separate of the object of desire, is too tiring. I am enough of it. I've got enough. So I really want to get out of this inner cycle of suffering. And this is called the intermediate level. Okay? But once we get there, it's still not enough. Okay, this second level for me, is something like, I remember one story which is just in between. But it's a true story of one island nearby Australia. I always forget the name of this place. Where there is one community, some people living there. And many years ago, I think by the 70s or something like that, there was a very big mine company, iron mine company there. And this mining company was actually destroying the environment. So the local people, which were born there, some type of indigenous people, they start to complain about the mining company. And they say, please, we want the mining company to be closed because it's destroying our environment. The river doesn't have fishes anymore. It's polluting completely our environment. And this is too important for us. So they start to request. The requests were not accepted. So their dream was the mining company must be closed. So they started to to put bombs in different parts of the mining company and to make war, actually. They started a type of a war in order to close the mining company. After a long process, they were able to close the mining company. But when they were able to close the mining company, which was one of the biggest at the time, it was not enough for them anymore. They said, no, now it's not enough for us to close the mining company. We want freedom politically. So they entered into a whole war in order to get their freedom, and it lasted for many, many years, 30, 40 years, whatever. It ended in the 1990-something, 1997, something like that. And during this war, they were able finally to get their freedom. But the point that I want to say is that when they reached, okay, we were able to close the mining company, then they looked around and said, yes, that's very nice, but that's not enough. I want more. And similar to that, we say, okay, I want to get out of the possibility of having a lower rebirth. Wonderful, but when we are able to have a stable life, virtuous life, familiarize ourselves with virtue, and so on, we look and we say, okay, nice, but it's not enough. I must get completely out of samsara. I must have freedom. To have less suffering and more pleasure is not enough. I must have freedom from samsara. And just because it's part of the story, something very nice that happened in this place is that during this process of war, there was made an embargo to this island. So they were not receiving any medicine, nothing from outside actually. So what they did is that they invented their own petrol for their car. They made out of palm oil. They made their own palm oil they'd use for the cars there. But the very nice thing is that they had malaria, and because of malaria, thousands of people die. But they had no more medicine because there was the embargo, so they were not receiving medicine. So what they did, they actually went back to learn and to revive their own traditional healing methods until the moment that they were able to reach a point where they were able to cure malaria through their own traditional healing methods. And after, when the embargo went away, they still kept using their traditional method, and then they say, okay, we don't need any more the other medicine. We are well with what we had. So it was a very powerful process, actually, through which they went on. But the point that I want to come now is that when we want so much something, for example, to be free from a lower rebirth, when we get there, actually, that we see that it's possible, we look and we say, okay, but that's not enough. I must get real freedom. I must be free from my own defilements. I must be free from samsara. And the next level, which this is the medium scope, the next level is that when we look and we see that it's really possible to get out of samsara, we look at samsara and we feel like nausea, something that I really don't want anymore to be part of it. And then we see this inner cycle of defilements and karma and suffering. It's enough. But when we really look at it, and then we start looking at other people, other sentient beings, all forms of life. And when we look to them, is there anyone that we know that is not, of all the sentient beings we have around us, that is not inside the 12 links of interdependence? No. After having seen the 12 links, we look at an animal, and we see that the animal is in the lower rebirth, within a negative cycle. We look to it in a different way. We start looking at people that look like they are very well in their life, materially well and so on, but not caring much for the next rebirth, not caring much for having a good attitude and so on. We look to them in a different way from the perspective of the 12 links. So by that, we start actually observing others and looking how other people and sentient beings, they all are within samsara, the 12 links of interdependence. They all are guided from ignorance, karmic formation, craving, attachment, becoming, suffering, and so on. So when looking to that, first thing that happens is that we look to the other person, to the other sentient being, it doesn't matter who it is. And we say, oh, we are in the same situation. When we find someone that is in a similar situation as us, we generate empathy. Like if I was kidnapped at some time, and then I go and I see someone that was also kidnapped in a complete different situation, I feel empathy for that person. Even from very stupid things. When we see someone that has something similar to us, we feel empathy. That's the result of our own selfishness, but that's how we are, no? So, I don't know. We go and we see someone in the car has a sticker of something that we like. We feel empathy. We are walking somewhere and we see someone and he has a Tibetan prayer flag. Oh, that's nice. Look, we have empathy for that person. Okay? We have someone else that have had a similar suffering as ours. We have empathy. So in the same way, when we look to the other and we say, oh, he's also within the 12 links of interdependence, just as me. Wow. There is no much difference between us. We generate empathy to each other. So, through that empathy, we generate a strong intention to help others. So, love and compassion. And by that, what happens is that in the moment that I want to help others, I get to a big problem, which is how? How can I help others? If I myself am in the middle of suffering and ignorance and all the rest, how can I help others, really? I can give food, I can be nice, I can smile, I can avoid to make trouble to them. I can make many things, which is good. But is it enough really to help others to get out of the 12 links of interdependence, to get out of samsara? No. And what can I do? Really to help others to get out of samsara? You know, normally there's this saying, we are in the same boat. Here it's not we are in the same, we are in the same ocean trying to swim together, you know. And then sometimes we are drawn down to the bottom of the ocean, and then we start drowning, and then we go up, and again we take some air, and then we go down again, we hit our head, and then we're able to go back, and we take some air, and then we go down again. And while I am going down, how can I push someone up, you know? It's simply not working. So, what's the only way how I can do? I must get out first. Then I can go. I have a very safe boat, stable, where I can give my hand, show the people where to swim from, and then I can really help them. So this is where it comes from the fact that the only choice that we have in order to really help others is to reach enlightenment ourselves. I must develop my qualities in order to help others to get out of samsara. Because only getting out of samsara, only thinking for myself is wonderful. I don't need anything more than that. You know, no more ignorance, no more suffering. Just relax and enjoy. But if I really want to help others, it is not enough. I must develop my qualities to their maximum potential. I must perfect generosity and patience and morality, concentration, effort, wisdom, and so on. I must eliminate not only ignorance, but the imprints of ignorance. Because that's the way how I can understand each and every sentient being in accordance to their needs and capacities. I cannot change the mind of anyone, but if I have the right wisdom, the right skillful means, I can reach at everyone and know the right word to say, the right way to act, the right way how to touch them and show them the path to be free from suffering. Right now, what can I do? So by seeing the suffering of others, by understanding the 12 links of interdependence in relation of others, by seeing the samsara of other sentient beings, I see how important it is for me to develop wisdom, to get out of samsara, to reach enlightenment in order to help others to do the same. Okay? So this is what we call the great scope, the great being. And here, Panchen Losang Trygve Gentsen, he describes the thing. So, okay. Furthermore, there are the 12 branches of bad destiny, lower realms. To think of them in forward progress process and in reverse process is called the meditation on the lesser being, which means to wish to get not to be free from the lower rebirth. To think of the 12 branches, the 12 links of interdependence, of happy destiny, which means the 12 links of interdependence bringing us a better upper realm rebirth, in reverse process and forward process is called the meditation on the intermediate being, which means the wish to get out of samsara. So, basing oneself on one's own experience, one can think about also all mother sentient beings, everyone else, about how they wander in the samsaric ocean by the way of the 12 links of interdependence. Then, to generate love, compassion, and the mind of enlightenment, and to train oneself in the practice of the victor's son is called the great being. Okay? So the great being is when we develop this strong determination to reach enlightenment and so to practice generosity, morality, patience, joyful effort, concentration, wisdom in order to develop, to reach enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So by reflecting upon the 12 links of interdependence, it helps us to develop our own renunciation and to develop bodhicitta, okay? Which is not technical, conceptual thoughts, are deep states of consciousness. So by reflecting upon the 12 links, we are able to see samsara more clearly, both our and others. Okay? Now we go to page number 11. In page number 10, we have just a little list a table to help us to have a summary of what we have seen until now. In page number 11, we have the images of the 12 links, and inside there are the images of the 6 realms of existence. So to understand a little bit better, it works like this. What is samsara? Samsara is the cycle of mental defilements, actions, karma, and suffering as a result. As Panchalo Sanchurgin describes with the words of Nagarjuna, it says, from the 3 delusions arise the 2 karmas. From the 2 karmas arise the 7 sufferings. From the 7 arise again their own result, the 3 delusions. As long as it is like the spun wheel of a potter, there arise 2 karmas from the 3 delusions. From the 2, 7 will come, and again from the 7 arise the 3. This very wheel of samsara will thus keep turning again and again. So basically, it's this constant process of mental defilements, actions, result. Mental defilements, action, result. Mental defilements, action, result. This is samsara. So if we make an example with the mala, the samsara is the cycle, is the turning. Okay, it's the cycle of mental defilements, karma, suffering, and so on. So this is, samsara is the turning. What are we? We are the ones turning, like the mala. Okay? And what is this realm of existence? Is the place where it happens. Okay? So where is this turning happening? Within the 6 realms of existence. So here in this representation, we have the 12 links of interdependence, which is showing this turning of mental defilements, actions, and suffering. Where is this turning happening? Inside the 6 realms of existence, okay? So that's how we experience it, through a process of birth, aging, sickness, death. Birth, aging, sickness, death. Rebirth, aging, sickness, death. And like this we go on and on and on and on. So, let's see a little bit the 6 realms. On the drawing we have on the upper top the God realm, on the right side the human realm, on the left side the semi-God realms. Okay? So, then below we have on the right side the hungry ghosts, on the left side the animal, and on the lower part the hell realm. So let's start by the upper realm. We start with the human realm. The human realm has the suffering of birth, aging, sickness, death, and the main aspect of the suffering of the human realm is the suffering of desire. We have this fact of the suffering of wishing the object of desire and not gaining it. The suffering of getting the object of desire and needing to separate from it. Of being in contact with what we do not want. So there is all the sufferings which are very specific, most of all from the human realm. Within that, there is this very special quality of human beings of projecting oneself, of imagining oneself in the future. So by not using this quality in the right way, we constantly suffer by suffering again from what have happened in the past, projecting ourselves in the future and pre-suffering of what may happen in the future. So we re-suffer from the past, we pre-suffer from the future. Okay? So all these are very special, let's say, very specific aspects of the human realm. Now, in the human realm we have a special balance because at the same time that we have suffering, we also have the ability to observe our mind, to project ourselves in the future, to direct our mind, our emotions, and consequently our actions. So this is something very special from the human realm. Okay. Then we have the God realm. The God realm is a realm where everything is wonderful. In the God realm, there is no such a thing as sensation of suffering. It simply doesn't exist there. Okay? So in the God realm, It's a state full of pleasure constantly. Okay? So in the God realm, it's said that you want to eat something, just think about it, and you feel the pleasure of eating it. And then you already feel satisfied. You even don't have the problem of digestion later. It is said that the pleasure, or like sexual pleasure between two God realm beings, is just looking at each other, and then they experience this profound, deep pleasure. They don't need even to touch each other. It's said that if you go to they have their own lights of their own body, so there is no darkness. They have beautiful smell coming from their body. They are constantly in the stages of pleasure. Okay? It looks good, no? But, there is a but. When the God realm, they have clairvoyance, so they can know what is in the other one's mind. They have many qualities, but the problem is that they have no suffering, so they do not have any attitude normally to make themselves better, to develop qualities, or to do anything like that. They pass their whole time simply enjoying their own pleasures. What happens is that when they get by the end of their life, their process of death is very difficult, because it takes 7 days, but the day of a god, it's said to be more or less, 1 day of a God realm is more or less 150 years of the human realm. Okay? And one life of the God realm is thousands of years. So, for us, we are talking about tens and hundreds of thousands of years of the human realm is one God realm lifetime. Okay? So, what happened is that 7 days is quite a long time, basically. But what happened is that by the end of their life, these last 7 days, they actually start to lose their qualities. So as they go through the process of death, they start to lose the light of their body. They start to lose the nice smell of their body. They start to have bad smelling. They start not to have anymore the pleasures that they had before. And all their friends and family and lovers and everyone start to create distance, because they don't want to be in touch with suffering. Okay? At the same time, to make the thing worse, they are clairvoyant, so they start to see where they're going to be reborn. And normally, what have they done? During their whole life, they have simply consumed all the positive karma they had and not accumulated new positive karma much, because they just enjoyed pleasures. So most of the times they have a negative rebirth. In the animal realm, even the human realm would be bad for them, but by what they're used to. But normally, it's like, imagine someone that is born with a very, very big, how do you say? Herança. Heritage, yes, thank you. Someone that is born with a very, very rich heritage and has never ever worried about anything other than enjoying one's own pleasures. Yeah, inheritance. A lot of money, is born completely rich and have never needed to work for that. Simply, it's totally rich and have passed the whole life simply enjoying pleasures, without worrying about anything else. Then at a certain point, the money ends. And then what happened? The friends of before, they say goodbye. I cannot go to the parties I used to go. I cannot meet the people I used to meet. I become part of a different level of society. I start to have problems. People start to avoid me. And then suddenly, I need to go to live under the bridge. Because I made no friends, I accumulated no virtues, I simply enjoyed the pleasures that I had. And the money has finished. Okay? So this is similar to what happened when we talk about the God realms in the moment of death. So, you don't use the qualities you have in a good way, simply consume. By the end of the life, you have consumed a lot of the positive energy you had, and now you don't have anymore. So this is the God realm, okay? In the God realm, there are exceptions. For example, Tushita the heaven of Buddha Maitreya, is in the 33rd level of the God realms. And there is a part of Tushita, not the whole, but there is a part of the 33rd level, which is called Tushita. There is a place where in the God realm, they can practice the Dharma and generate merits, accumulate positive energy, and so on and so on. This is a specific area, okay? But normally, most of it is just this consuming pleasure and positive energy that has been generated. Because as we saw before, every sensation of pleasure is a result of a positive karma. So if I consume constantly sensations of pleasure without accumulating new positive karma, what happens? I finish it. Okay? Then, we have the semi-God realm. The semi-God realm is the realm that is represented on the left side. We can see there is a tree, and the upper part of the tree is on the God realm, and the lower part of the tree is in the semi-God realm. The semi-God realm are beings that actually they are quite good in life. They have everything they would need, but they don't have enough pleasures as the God realms. So they are constantly in envy and competition with the God realm. No? This also, if we make an analogy to our own world, there are many people that they really have enough to have a good life, but they don't have as much as some other people. Instead of enjoying what they have, they are constantly with envy and competition with those that have more. Similar to that, the semi-God, they are always in war against the gods. The example that is given, the image, is that there is this tree where the trunk is on the semi-God realms, but the leaves and the fruits are in the God realms. And they are saying, oh, but the tree is coming from here, why can't we have the fruits, And then they're always throwing arrows and shooting at the God realms. But when the arrows reach the God realms, it arises as a rain of flowers. While the gods, they just eat the fruit, they spit down the seed, and when it arrives in the semi-God realms, it arrives as a rain of arrows and bullets and so on. So, the point is that the gods, even without wanting, they create harm to the semi-gods. The semi-gods, even doing their best of their efforts, they are not able to harm the gods. And they are constantly in envy. So they would have the possibility of practicing a spiritual path, but they don't, because they are always lost within their own envy and anger, but mostly envy and their own war in this sense. Okay? If we make an analogy to our world here, basically these are situations in which we have everything we would really need. We don't need anything more to be well, but we don't have as much as someone else, so we are always fighting to get more, instead of enjoying what we have, basically. Then we go to see the lower realms. We have the animal realm. The animal realm is a realm that we know quite well by what we see and we exchange. The difference between us and the animal realm is, in the animal realm, the animals don't have the intellectual ability that we have to perceive, understand, project ourselves, direct our mind, and so on. In the animal realm, the main defilement is fear, the constant fear of someone else eating me, killing me, so I need always protection. So there is always this fear of survival and of getting food and pleasure. So the animals basically survive. Okay? So, and there is constantly the fear of survival, the fear of being killed and so on. Okay? So this is, in few words, the animal realm. Then we have the hungry ghosts, or the preta. The definition of the hungry ghosts are beings that they would intellectually, physically, they would have the same capacity as human beings, but they are not able to use their capacity for the spiritual path because they are completely overtaken by hunger and thirst and insatisfaction. So they are described as having a very, very thin body, like only skin and bone, having a big swollen belly, a very thin throat. They look for food for a long, long time. Whenever they're able to get little food, it's very difficult to go down through the throat. And when it goes down, it's not giving any satisfaction because they are full of fire, which would be basically some very strong type of gastritis. So it's like burning anything that they eat right away, so they cannot have any satisfaction out of that. So they are constantly looking for water and looking for food, and they can never get enough, and they have a very long life. When I received these teachings in Tibet, I took a picture I found on the internet to my teacher there, showing some people in Africa in a state of total hunger, in which they are very, very thin. They have a dark body, as is explained in the text. They have a very swollen belly. The throat is very small. It doesn't matter whenever they're able to get some food, it's difficult to eat. And they have a very long life, because even if they don't live so many years, every year of their life lasts much longer than our years. Because one day of total hunger lasts much longer than a week or a month of being satisfied with food. So if someone that is born with hunger, lives with hunger, dies with hunger, it's an extremely long life. So the explanation, this is the definition that is given, and this is something that we can actually find in this world if we really go to look for it. So it's a very difficult state. So when we look for the definitions, when we say they would have the same abilities as normal human beings, but because being completely taken by hunger and thirst, they have no space in the mind for anything else. Okay? So these are the so-called hungry ghosts. Okay? Then there are what are called the hell realm, the hell beings. When we talk about the hell is a very difficult place to be. The hell is, first of all, a state of mind. Okay. So imagine going to sleep, waking up in the worst of your nightmares and not being able to awake from that nightmare. Okay. Some people say the hell doesn't exist. I personally believe in hell. It doesn't need to be necessarily one physical place that we can go to look. It can be also simply stages of mind, as is described in Shantideva's Bodhisattva Charyavatara. And there is this story which touched me very much. That's why I always tell the same story, which is basically of this girl that had her body burned in an accident and went to the hospital and was in the hospital for a period of 10 days in coma. And when she woke up from the coma, she was very stressed. And later, when she was able to tell what she had experienced, was during the 10 days of coma, she constantly experienced the sensation of being burned, and then being raped, and then being burned again, and being raped again, and being burned again, and being raped again, constantly, one time after each other. So, for her, it was a very strong sensation of suffering, physically where she was. In the room in the hospital. But what was her experience? Hell. She was in hell. She was experiencing real hell. And if we look in the descriptions of hell, there is one type which is called the recurring or repeating hell. It's a hell where the same situation of suffering constantly repeats once after the other. So, this is an example that, hell is not something that is necessarily so far from us. It's a state of mind in which we can get trapped. Even if we look to this world, there are many situations of suffering that are really situations of being in hell. There are many situations of suffering that are really, 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 quite difficult, quite heavy. We could say this is a situation of hell, right? So, when the hell realm is described, it is divided into three parts, which is like the introduction to hell, which is the more easy part of hell, which is already quite difficult. And then where the recurring hell is part of that, there is one part of this hell where the body is constantly cut into parts, but you still feel the sensation of every drop of blood that has fallen down, and you still feel the pain of it, even though it's not part anymore of your body. There's all these descriptions. It's quite terrible if we go into details of the descriptions of hell. Then there is the hot realms, the hot hells, which is burning, and it has the strong sensation actually of anger. And then there is a cold realm, which is basically deep, deep depression. The cold realm is a state where there is not even light. There is total darkness. There is not the presence of anyone else. And one is constantly in a state of sadness, loneliness, and cold. Okay? So these are the two different types of hell. One is completely hot, where it's constantly with anger and hatred and suffering. And the other one is also with a lot of suffering, but cold, no light, total darkness, no any sort of warmth, physical, mental, emotional, is totally cold and darkness. Okay? So this is what are the two main hells. So actually, the hell realm, it's the most difficult form of existence, and it's very sad to say, but I really believe it exists. And we don't need, it's not a matter of only believing, it's what we can see. You know, many people experiencing hell within even their own dreams or within a state of mind like being in a coma, or even within this human body, people experience hell-like experiences. Okay? So the point is that it's possible to get trapped in a state of mind of deep, profound suffering, which is the result, it's not a punishment. The important thing to understand is that hell is not a punishment. It's the result of causes and conditions. Okay? And it's possible to get out of hell. Once we have extinguished that cause, that karma is extinguished, and we create a positive condition like a feeling of love or compassion, faith, then we get out of hell to a better rebirth. So, when we look at the drawing, we can see where the process of birth, aging, sickness, death is actually happening. It's happening through one and the other realms of existence. Okay? There is also what is called the form realm and the formless realm, and the desire realm. All the 6 levels that we have just explained are part of the desire realm. Then the form realm and the formless realm actually are part of the God realm, in which there is the formless realm, which is a state of rebirth in which there is no gross body. It's like if there is no body, there is no pleasure or unpleasant sensation. It's just a constant neutral sensation without almost no thought. It's just like pause. Then there is the form realm, which it already has a body, but also there is no pleasure and no suffering. It's also a neutral state of existence. Okay? And both of these are part of the God realm. But normally the 6 realms that we see here is what we call the desire realm. Anyhow, the point is that by seeing the 6 realms of existence, this is where the samsara is turning. The main force that is making samsara to turn is represented in the very center of the drawing. Now there is this other circle here, which I don't know the exact meaning, but I think it's like showing the process of going up to the better realm rebirth and going down to the lower rebirth, basically. But in the very center of it, you have the pig, the snake, and the bird. Okay, the bird normally is represented by a chicken or a hen. Okay. So the meaning of that is that the black pig is representing ignorance. The snake is representing anger, hatred. And the hen is representing attachment, desire. which are the three main poisons that makes us trapped into samsara. Because what is samsara? It's the cycle of mental defilements, actions, karma, and results. Okay? Suffering. How many seeds have we planted in our mental continuum? How much karma do we have accumulated? Infinite. So we cannot wait for all the karma to be extinguished, because as we experience the karma, we are creating new one. We cannot wait for the suffering to end. It's not going to end, because it's like waiting for the fire to stop burning as we continue to put wood on it. It's never going to stop. So what's the only way? Is dealing with the mental defilements, is eliminating attachment, anger, hatred, envy, jealousy, pride, miserliness, selfishness, ignorance. It's only by eliminating the mental defilements that we can make a difference and developing our qualities. That's the only way. In other words, by practicing the Dharma. That's the only thing we can really do. Otherwise, we can get extremely rich and powerful. And then so what? We die. And then maybe the next life we become a dog. And then what? We can be extremely beautiful. Then so what? At a certain point, this body will go away. So, it doesn't matter how much power, how much beauty, how much money we may have. None of this can assure us to get out of the cycle of suffering. The only thing that can assure us to get out of the cycle of suffering is the practice of Dharma. Nothing else. Is eliminating our defilements, developing love towards ourselves, love toward others, a correct view of reality, developing wisdom. That's what can really take us out of the cycle of samsara, of suffering. Nothing else. And help us to develop our qualities so that we can help others to do the same also. So, by looking at it, finally, what is the conclusion? I must get out of the cycle of samsara, and I must reach enlightenment to help others. There is no other way. In this life I can become powerful and beautiful and rich, and then so what? What have you concluded after that? Okay, you conquer the whole world. You become the emperor of the new world. And then? You die. And then what? So, instead of becoming the conqueror of the whole world, if you become the conqueror of your own defilements, of your own self, then really we get something. Then we can take continuity of this state of well-being from life to life. So basically, it's bringing to our life the priority of developing our qualities, of eliminating our negativities. That's the priority of life, is to practice Dharma, because all the rest, sure, we need to take care of it. We can make the conclusion into 3 points. In this life, we need to take care of this life because we are here. So we need to take care of our health, work, money, pay taxes, whatever. But at the same time, we need to give priority to make this life meaningful, which means practice the Dharma, cultivate our qualities, assure a good rebirth, do whatever we can do to get out of the cycle of existence and to benefit others. And the third point is prepare ourselves for death, because it's going to come. So, basically, we have very precious tools. So, as a conclusion of all of this that we have seen, we should have joy, which is, I am in this world, in the 12 links of interdependence, in this crazy samsara, which I really don't like. How wonderful I can see it. How wonderful I have the tools and the means and the guidance to get out of it. I'm not completely lost. No? There is Guru Buddha to whom I can give my hand strongly and can guide me on my way. That's so precious. So, I shouldn't lose this opportunity with small, stupid things. Okay, because life is going on. And today we are worried about politics. Tomorrow we are worried about pleasure. The day after tomorrow we are worried about money. The other day after we are worried about this and that. Sure, there are problems, we need to deal with them, okay. But life goes by. And then one day, death comes knocking in our door. And then it's too late to do something. To prepare ourselves. To cultivate our qualities. To use this opportunity in the best way as we can. So we must do it from now. Yes, we enjoy life. We take care of the people that we have around us. We keep our commitments. We do everything that we need to do. But the priority is put Dharma into practice, develop our own qualities, not let ourselves be driven by the mental defilements. That's our main priority. So, this is for me basically the conclusion after seeing the 12 links of interdependence. Okay? So I see with that we can conclude. There is one part which is left, but I think you can all read by yourself, which is the last part, which is just the description of the symbols of the 12 links. For example, a blind person, old blind person, groping for his way with a cane. That's ignorance. We are blind and we're trying to walk, trying to find our way, and we are blind and we cannot find it. That's representing ignorance. You know, each one of them here, there is the description of each one of them. We don't need to go through that now. It's very simple. You can just read and understand for yourself. And after you can look in the drawing and you can see the representation. Okay? In the drawing of the Wheel of Life, there is also the representation of a Pure Land, Sukhavati, of Buddha Amitabha on the left, and there is the Buddha on the right, showing that actually there is the path to enlightenment. There is the possibility of to get out of such cycle. There is hope. Okay? This great, this ferocious being holding the wheel of life is Yama, death, is time, holding, is the Lord of death, actually holding life, which we are not free from time, okay? From impermanence. Okay, but there is hope, there is the way of getting out of the cycle, which is basically eliminating ignorance, developing love, compassion, method, and wisdom. Love, compassion, bodhicitta, and correct view of reality, wisdom. That's the way to get out. And luckily, we are so fortunate that we can have access to it. We have a path to it. And here, all of this is not a matter of being Buddhist or not being Buddhist. This is not the reality for the Buddhist. The 12 links of interdependence work for anyone, independently if you are Buddhist or not. It's not, oh, now I am Buddhist, I need to experience these things. No. It's like, it's for everyone. It doesn't matter what we do or not. It's a representation of reality. If you are able to develop love and compassion and wisdom, you know, calling yourself a new religion, whatever name you like, wonderful. It's not a matter of being part of a group called Buddhist. It's a matter of developing love to yourself, love towards others, and a correct view of reality. That's the main point. And getting out of the cycle of suffering for the benefit of others. That's the point that we should go through. Okay? Jetson lame kotse raptenchi namkar chinle chochur gepadang losan tempe dröme sasumgi drove munsel tato negyurchi Nimo dele tsendele, nime kuyan delekshin, ninsen takto del, koncho sumgi jingi, koncho sumgi ngodrup sol, koncho sumgi trashisho. at dawn or dusk, at night or midday. May the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. All'alba o al tramonto, di notte o durante il giorno, possano i tre gioielli concederci le loro benedizioni, possano aiutarci ad ottenere tutte le realizzazioni e cospargere il sentiero della nostra vita con molti segni di buon auspicio. Grazie a tutti.